I am getting married this year in August. You see us going through our relationships and it's progressing. How do you think that we're managing the wedding expenses coming up?
Do you really want me to say?
Tell the people we're trying to be transparent here.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Love, Marriage, and Finances with your host, Sid Misra, certified financial planner. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have a very special episode here today. I'm joined by my dad, Gautam Misra, who is a founding partner and financial advisor here at Beacon Financial Group, and also my boss. Going to be here talking a little bit about love, marriage, and finances, how we're merging both of those important things together, both love and money. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Glad to be here.
Excellent. And I just wanted to give everyone here a heads up that we will be having a new series come out together called Money Matters with Sid and Gautam Misra. We're going to continue in this format where we talk a little bit about the market, the economy, and then answer some of the questions that are sent in by our viewers and talk about things that we think are relevant to the people that are consuming our content. So let's get into it. So we're starting the series. You know that I'm doing this series on love, marriage, and finances. What do you think so far? I mean, how do you think it's been going?
It's been very nice. I think very interesting. It's a topic that many people don't sort of focus on before they get married. I think it's important that people start talking about this a lot more. So I think you're doing a good thing by bringing it up and making people aware of this particular side of, as I would say, joining your finances, joining your life, and sort of starting your life together.
Now, you've been a financial advisor since 95, 96. What do you see are some of the biggest financial mistakes that couples make when they merge their finances together, and then just the ongoing management of that as well?
My biggest thing that I've come across is that typically one spouse will take over the role of managing everything, and many times the other spouse kind of leaves it to the one that's managing it and doesn't have much of a clue. The person who's managing it feels that the other person has a decent handle, but when I probe and ask more questions, many times it appears that the spouse which is not handling the finances doesn't have much of an idea of what's happening. So I think it's very important that both spouses get very involved in the overall financial planning process so that both are aware of what's happening in their life.
That's a great point. You know, we do talk about it in the series how we want both partners to be part of the process. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you both have to have a 50-50, part into it. I mean, I think it's important that both are together in it, but one person may take the lead. The other partner, though, has to be involved. There has to be transparency.
Transparency, information sharing, strategy sharing, and also basically the other partner should be aware of what's happening. Maybe the partners do an annual review and sort of say this is where we stand, because typically when you do taxes, only one spouse ends up doing the taxes. So if you both sit down and see what the incomes are and the taxes are, and then look at what your overall financial situation is, that might help matters a lot more.
Great point. So you brought up how one of the biggest issues you see is that one spouse is taking the lead. You do work with some of the younger clients. Obviously, I do as well. I'm 37. Do you see a change in the generations from maybe the people that are more baby boomer to now millennial, where there is a change from one person doing it all to both partners having a say in all of it?
I'm seeing a change, but I wish there was more of a change. The reality is, again, in this situation, somebody takes the lead. I've seen couples where one person is very disciplined in terms of saving and managing their finances. The other person is not very sort of disciplined, and so I think that's getting better. But I think there's room to go, considerable room to grow.
So you touched on, one partner possibly being more of a saver than a spender versus the other partner. When you have clients in this situation, what are you doing to kind of help them navigate that, right? If there's a partner who feels like the other one is spending too much and the other one feels like that other partner is too controlling, how do you manage that as a financial advisor?
Well, the most one of the things is basically I sit down with them and see what their finances are like, and I explain to them that, you know, technically it's an old saying, you can cut your coat only according to the cloth that you have. So if you have a certain amount of income, you shouldn't be spending way beyond that. I mean, coming back from my background, when we were in India, if you needed to save for something, you saved first and then bought it. Here you have the concept of credit cards, which is there in India also right now. You have credit cards, you just charge it and pay the minimum balance. But what you don't realize is that there's a lot of interest that's being paid. So the thing that I try to do with them and say, okay, this is your cash flow coming in. One of the most important things is to be able to set aside for a cash reserve for
Mm.
emergencies. And after that, figure out your goals, and the rest, I'm not going to ask you how to spend because that's what you're working hard to do, but try and stay within the limits that you have.
I love that. Setting up a system, trying to save first and then spend afterwards. And you can do that guilt free, right? If you're taking care of your future self.
Absolutely. But the problem is people don't want to wait.
So you did mention this. You know, part of the story is you and mom came over with me, immigrant family, not a lot of resources. There were tough times and it was tight. You know, you see now, and I'm in a relationship, your daughter, my sister is in a relationship. You see the generation that we have now. Do you think that we spend too much money? And do you think as a generation, like, we're too impatient? We're not willing to sacrifice?
We'll always think that the younger generation is going to spend a lot more. But no, I see in you, one of the things that I've realized is, you having worked with me for some time, you do realize that you can only spend a certain amount and you have to save too. So I think you've done a decent job of saving also. Um, the other part of Priyanka, who is also a disciplined saver and tries to make sure that she does all the right things before she starts spending. Sometimes I feel that she's a little too strict on herself, but that's her deal. But the reality is, as long as you can meet your financial goals, stay within your limits, I think that's very, very important going forward.
Who's more of the saver and who's more of the spender of your
Do you really
children?
want me to say
Say
that?
it.
Say
Tell
it.
the world.
Tell the world. Priyanka is much more of a saver. She's also, sometimes you have to tell her that she can spend a little bit more, but that's who she is.
Yeah, that's okay. Some people can spend a little bit more, not a problem. When couples talk about being able to afford something, right? What does that mean? Like Gotham, we're going to come sit with you. I'm here with my wife. When you say we can't afford something, what does that actually mean?
Well, I mean, either you have the capital that you saved for something like that, or you start saving for it, or if you have access to loan funds which don't cost much, and knowing that your cash flow is going to be able to take care of the payment over a period of time, um, that's fine. That's what you can do. I come across a lot of people who, let's say, did a project in their house. They've come to me that they said that Home Depot gave them a 15 month 0% financing for the amount that they spend.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, good. So basically, you got a 15-month period to pay it off without costing you extra.
Right.
Make sure you set aside that kind of money to do so. But if you're going to charge it on a credit card at 25-30% interest, it doesn't make sense unless you're going to pay off that credit card the next cycle itself.
Yeah, it's a great point. So having the money to do it, I'm going to take it a step further because I talk to a lot of young clients about this. There is a difference between being able to make the payment on something and being able to afford it. I can make the payment on $1,000 a month car, but I can't afford it because doing so would prevent me from putting money away for my future or doing the other things that I want to in life. And I think it's important to understand that, right? There is a difference between the two of those, and you and your partner have to figure out what you can actually afford.
Well, that's where the cash flow sheet comes in very handy, right? You can put in on that cash flow sheet what your net take home pay is,
Hmm.
and from there you can work backwards and say, okay, what is it that we can afford? And you said that yes, you can afford to pay for a car, but then you sacrifice something else. Then you have to prioritize, and sometimes you may need the car because you have to get to work or do something, but then you have to understand that you have to find a way to manage expenses somewhere else to be able to make sure that you save for the future and still continue to pay for your car or any other big fixed expenses.
That's excellent. So In the one of the previous videos I did on the series, I talked about how when you have your money conversations with your spouse, it changes over time, right? When you had babies until, let's say getting into high school and college, and then after, right? How you manage your finances change. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, of course, I mean, it could be that one partner takes time off to take care of the child, and one or two kids, or whatever the thing is. So that happens. And then there's child care. If you're two working spouses, child care till kindergarten, I mean, preschool starts, right? That's very expensive in this country. So that sometimes people have to make an assessment to see whether it makes sense for both parents to be working. But you also have to understand, respect the career aspirations of the spouse who could sit at home, because that spouse may want to continue a career. So those things have to come into play. It becomes a little easier when preschool and kindergarten starts, because then you don't have to pay for daycare. And then as the kids start getting older, then there are activities. There could be, sports. There could be extracurricular activities. All those then come into play. And then the kids reach teenage years. Then they have different demands. You may need to buy them a car. Uh, Also, all this time you got to keep focus on the fact that you should be saving for their college, because many people then leave saving for college till very late, and then they're rushing or looking for ways to pay for it, either taking loans or doing whatever, or borrowing from somebody somewhere else.
Absolutely. So what you're saying is, obviously, as times change, how we manage our finances change, and what the constraints are change as well, correct?
Correct. And hopefully also people are making more money too, right? Then you can afford other things. If you're not, then things are different. But it is expected that you make money. But one of the challenges today in today's corporate world is people get laid off. And I think it's very important to have a good cash reserve, because it takes time to get a decent job, and it might, unless you have 6 to 9 months worth of expenses set aside, it's going to become very challenging.
That's a great point. People who lose their jobs don't realize how long they may be unemployed for. It's not just a quick thing where you find another opportunity and you're able to jump into that. So having that emergency fund there to help take care of your expenses, especially if you have, a mortgage, you have the car, you have a family that you have to take care of, it's going to be very important to have that. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about our own relationships. You've been married for, it's going to be 40 years this year.
Next month, this month.
This month, in a week or a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I am getting married this year in August. My sister, your daughter, is getting married this year as well. Wedding in 2024. She had to copy me. It's okay.
Why wait?
Why wait? No, exactly. But I wanted to, talk about it because you see us going through our relationships and it's progressing. How do you think that we're managing the wedding expenses coming up? It's been a big thing, right? I mean,
Do you really want me to say?
tell the people, we're trying to be transparent here.
Okay. One of the concerns that I have as far as wedding expenses are concerned is they can get out of hand, right? Wedding definitely should be a celebration of your two families getting together, couple getting together, but also the way I look at things is it should be a reasonable amount. Now, what's reasonable is different for different people, but the reality is, uh, most important not to go overboard. So that's the kind of thing, and you could sort of have typically as Indians we have a lot of celebrations. So the
And
reality
a
is,
lot of family
a lot
too.
of family too. So kind of be able to sort of still have fun, but yet not grow crazy. So that's the most important thing that I feel about people getting married. And if you can keep things within limits, you'll have a much easier point in life going forward. Now, majority of the expenses are being obviously paid by the parents, but still many couples don't have parents who can support them, and they have to manage their own expenses themselves. And I think those people are a little more frugal in terms of what they do. Again, the ceremony, the reception and all is a celebration, but I think we should always do things within limits.
Set a budget, try to stay within the limits.
Yeah.
Wedding planning is expensive, especially in New Jersey. I didn't realize how much money it would cost,
Even in Georgia,
even in, even in Georgia, to Priyanka's point. So, what is your advice to you gave some advice to couples, right, that are going to be spending on themselves and maybe their parents are helping them as well, try to stay within a budget. What about those parents that are helping, right? They want to give their kids the experience that they want. They want to be able to have that celebration with all the family. Do you worry when you have clients come in? Do you worry that they may be, sacrificing or putting in danger their future for doing something like this?
sometimes that happens, but the clients that I've had, they've been very, I guess, working with me over a period of time. They've been pretty down to earth. I have not seen anybody who's gone crazy as far as weddings are concerned. Many times I find that the parents pay part, the couple pay a part, so to make up the whole thing. So I think I've seen that a lot. But again, as parents, even though we could potentially afford a lot more, I'd rather set that money aside for more. Let's say if you ever want to buy a house, or if you want to set aside money for college education for kids that come through, or whatever, maybe help you later on with anything else. I think that's far more important than going crazy over wedding celebrations, because the thing is to celebrate, but if you're going to think that you want to do something that people will remember forever, I don't think that's necessary.
Absolutely. And it's one day or a few days versus, the rest of your life.
Correct.
My fiance and I have talked about having kids. We both want to be parents. How do you build wealth when you have kids? It just seems like it's a black hole of money that you just keep dumping into it. Not
I
me, obviously, and not my sister. We were never like that for you guys, but we didn't cost you a lot of money.
Do you remember when you used to come back from summer vacation? What used to happen?
What?
Your classmates would all be buying new shoes and all that stuff and spending money. I said, no, your shoes are good enough. There's nothing wrong with
That's
them.
true.
You can still wear them another year or two. So that's the kind of stuff you have to do.
I
You're,
repressed those memories. Thank
huh?
you for bringing that back up. I repressed that you didn't buy me that
No,
stuff.
but what have I been doing for you the last few years?
Yeah, you've been helping me with my business.
And for taking on some great
It
vacation.
comes around full
Yes,
circle,
yes.
right?
So now you can do all those things. That's part of it. One of the unique things that you have is you're in the potential to make a lot of money in the kind of business you are. There are many people who work, they're stuck in jobs. Even if they work hard, they probably get a 5 or 10% raise, may jump. You, if you focus and get your business going, there are huge jumps possible. So in fact, as far as you are concerned, I would say focus on your career too, and you'll be able to afford many, many things that you think today you can't.
And what about the people that are in those jobs that may not have the big earning potential? How do they handle that?
Then they have to manage their expenses. Then they have to be able to sort of sit down and budget and say, okay, this is what's going to. So, one of the things is, certain expenses will come up every year. There's birthdays, there's Christmas, or major holidays, depends on which holiday you celebrate. There's going to be, back to school times. There'll be some things like that. So, if you can think ahead and plan for those kind of things, then you can make your budget accordingly. There are many people who, in their paycheck, will set aside a certain amount of money for their vacations. That's great. So they want to plan for vacations, which is nice. Everybody needs some. But you also can plan for other things in your life, like these kind of things, expenses for kids, for your own cash reserves, for your own future and things.
So it's really just taking a look at the overall finances, being, intentional about what you want to do with your money and making sure that you try to stay within those limits.
Absolutely. Like I said, cut your coat according to the cloth. If you may only make, let's say, 15,000 bucks a month as a couple, you can't be spending 17, 18,000 bucks because you'll get into debt.
Right. You shouldn't, and you should be spending way less than or less than the 15 and trying to put the rest to work, correct?
Yes, yes.
Um, so you talked about spending, you touched on it where we talked about coming back to school and, seeing all I saw all my friends getting new clothes and shoes, and Christmas time was the same thing, right? They'd come back and talk about all the game systems and things. As a parent, how do you give your kids, let's say, the things that you didn't have, while also trying to raise them with values around money and wanting to work hard, because you can give them everything and then they're going to turn out to be spoiled, but you do want to give them maybe some of the things that you didn't have. So what's the balance
So
there?
here's my question. You as kids never were wanting for anything.
Oh, we wanted a lot. No,
No,
we
no,
wanted
no,
a
no,
lot.
no. You were not wanting for anything in terms of basics, right?
Right.
Right. The basic thing is now with the way commercials happen, TV happens, you always get tempted to get a lot more, right?
Hmm.
I've come across people who have to keep buying clothes all the time because it's on sale. They've got a whole wardrobe full of clothes which they've not touched, but
Yeah.
they still go and buy stuff. Same thing as your situation. You had two, three good shoes. You didn't need any more just because it's new and things like that. You need to go and buy some. It doesn't make sense. And you were, I mean, you were well clothed. You had enough clothes. We took you on a lot of vacations. I thought for us, value for those kind of things is far greater than material
The
things.
experience, right?
Yes, the experience, because material things can come and go, because people, you want a toy, you want a puzzle, you want something there. After 1 or 2 days, you lose interest in it, right? Then you want something else. That's the reason. That's what I meant was we did not waste money, but we gave you pretty much everything you we felt you needed.
That's fair. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that you hope your kids realize later on in life. Maybe they won't get it at that point. They're young, they're still growing up and learning. But I think my sister and I both definitely understand that and appreciate that you guys did that for
Those
us.
kind of values have to be brought in right from the beginning
Yeah,
too. You can't wait till somebody is much older and then start imposing them. It has to
it's
come from
very,
day
yeah,
one.
that's a great point. Young couples, couples that are starting out, they want to have a family, they have all these things. One of the biggest things that we talk about with our clients is life insurance.
Hmm.
Can you talk about why it's so important that a couple has life insurance?
Okay. There's many things that there are very different kinds of life insurance. So let's understand one very basic thing. Your peak need for life insurance happens just at the birth of your last child that you're going to have, because that's when you're most vulnerable. That's when, if you're not there to bring in, your partner's not there to bring in his or her income, then the survivor has to manage with whatever assets there are. So basic thing is to be able to have enough assets should one person not be around to provide the cash flow. That's why life insurance is very, very important. Then later on, it can be for different reasons, for estate planning, for long term care, and things. But right at that point in time, life insurance is very, very critical. Now, as you get older, life insurance gets a little more expensive. So, what you may want to do is to buy life insurance when you're a couple of a certain amount.
Mhm.
And then when you have your kids, buy extra, increase your insurance amount so that the family is taken care of in case you're not around.
Absolutely. Life insurance is very crucial. Things happen. Life insurance is one of those costs that we hope is wasted, right?
Correct?
We hope we never have to make that claim, but it's there in case we do. And it's there so that our surviving spouse, family members have the resources available to stay in the same house, to pay their bills, to have money for college and life going forward. So make sure that if you're a young couple, you have those liabilities like a mortgage and car payments, and you have dependents, you get proper coverage.
Absolutely. So life insurance takes care of your expenses, survivor income. Even survivor also has to now save for his or her retirement too.
Correct.
Then there's
Yeah.
college expenses. So yes, all that has to be taken into account for life insurance.
So let's switch it to you guys, because you and mom, you guys have done a great job of managing your finances throughout the years. Do you feel like you guys have enough money right now?
It's never enough. No,
It's
I
never
think,
enough.
yeah, I mean, the fact is, if I did calculations and all that stuff, I would think that I would be able to retire comfortably. So that's, if that's the answer, yes. But the reality is, I enjoy what I do. I enjoy meeting clients. I enjoy running my business. So hopefully, the assets will continue to grow.
What is what is something that you and mom have trouble spending money on?
Any big ticket items, because what's happened is over life, we never we see, you have to understand one thing: the same things can be available in different price ranges, right? So if you we have trouble, if you have to have a large expense, we have to think a lot about it. And I'm going to use a simple example. Remember when we were going to Africa?
Yeah.
I met you at DC airport,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk in with a Ray-Ban glasses, sunglasses, right? And I always wanted to buy those kind of things. I said, if my son can do it, why can't I do it? I had never done it before. After that, I came back and bought a pair of Ray-Ban glasses. So, there are things like that. Now I have reached a point, and I have to try and convince Mama to feel comfortable that way, to be able to, we buy decent cars, we go on decent vacations and things, but she still will not go crazy spending on very high-end stuff. She'll still buy good stuff, very good stuff, but not go crazy spending that kind of money.
Well, I'm glad that I could inspire you to spend more money. It's been trying to do that my whole life. I'm still working on it. What are some of the big bucket list items that you would love to spend money on?
If I could go to space today, I would.
Oh, I love that.
Correct.
Okay.
The zero gravity. At least if I don't go to space, I can do the zero gravity flight.
Yep.
Just travel. We just want to travel and see different parts of the world, because there's just so much to see. And the more we've been traveling, we went to Thailand last year and Malaysia. Before that, we went to Jordan. We went to Mexico. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of interesting people, a lot of interesting food. There's so much more to do. So I think that's what. Remember, we went to Netherlands and Brussels,
Yeah.
Amsterdam and
Oh,
Brussels.
yeah.
Then we also went to Dublin and Scotland. We did all that stuff. So those kind of things, just want to travel as much as we can. There's so much to see in this world.
Yeah, and I love that. That's one thing I appreciate about you and Mom is you guys love to spend money on the experiences. I remember those trips more than the clothes or the junk that I bought on Amazon because I probably bought a lot of it. But I'll always remember those experiences. I'll always have that. And I think that that's something that both Priyanka and I, my sister and I, will want to continue on with our families, right?
I would
Having
hope
to
so.
be able
Yeah.
to spend the time to do that, hopefully with you guys as well, and do big trips together.
We would hope that. We hope that give them life experiences. Like we said, material things get lost very fast. It's these kind of things which make a huge difference. So yes, that's the thing. Remember, you went to India and went to the Taj Mahal. That I'm sure you remember, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
We did that UK trip when you guys were kids.
Mhm.
When my sister was there, we went and met them there.
Yeah,
That was another fun trip, right?
those are always experiences that you
Always
remember.
experiences. That's what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this has been a really great conversation. We've talked about a lot of different things. I really appreciate your perspective. Thank you so
You're
much.
most welcome.
And I think that this is something that we're going to continue with
Okay.
our new series, Money Matters with Sid and Gautam Misra. It'll be a little bit of a different format. We'll be able to talk about other things, the economy. This is an election year. How should we be investing during an election year? Should we be doing anything different? So conversations like that and discussions like that, if you have anything that you would like us to talk about more, please send that information in. We'll be happy to try to do a video on that. And hopefully you got a lot out of this episode of Love, Marriage, and Finances. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you with the next video. Thank you.
Thank you.